Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friday Apocryphal Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything Friday Apocryphal and podcast. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we are covering Sirach chapters 24 through 26.
Yeah, so not too many chapters, because we usually read 4, but today we are covering 3, because we're just stretching it out a little bit to get to Jubilees.
Yeah. Well, we also have a special guest coming on
next month.
Yeah. Who knows a lot about Sirach.
Yeah.
So we need it to last that long. All right. So anything you want to say before we announce our books and get into it?
I don't think so.
All right.
No.
Well, I have the Anchor Bible, Wisdom of Ben Sira, a new translation with notes by Patrick W. Scahan, introduction and commentary by Alexander A. DeLella.
And I have the Wisdom of Ben Sira, otherwise known as Ecclesiasticus. And this translation is from W.O.E. Osterley.
The Society of Promoting Christian, what is that?
Oh, yeah, the Society for Promoting Christian Knowledge, yeah.
Yeah. We also have Eerdman's commentary on the Bible.
And we have the New Interpreter's commentary on the Bible.
And we have a show for you today. Whoop-de-doo.
Absolutely classic.
Let's talk about part 5. Because it's part 5 in here.
Yeah.
So there are parts. We're now in the 5th one. We're going to be talking about the praise of wisdom.
Yeah, and like the 4 major parts in the first half of the book, this section begins with an elegant poem about wisdom. And most Greek manuscripts actually have the title, The Praise of Wisdom. But an introduction and a conclusion to this poem give this poem the same number of lines as letters in the Hebrew alphabet. It's not, exactly an acrostic, because it's just not written that way, because the verses don't start with, the letter that you can number them out by. But in the sense of having the same amount of lines, then yes, it is in that way an acrostic, which is not completely an acrostic.
All right. Well, there is a bit about the outline of this part here. This splendid poem, which in most of the Greek manuscripts has the title Praise of Wisdom, has 7 stanzas. All bicola, but note that verse 23a is prose. After a brief introduction, verses 1 through 2, Wisdom delivers in the first person a 22-line speech, which has 4 stanzas. Next comes a 6-line stanza equating wisdom and the law. The final stanza, 5 lines, contains Ben Sira's descriptions of his own functioning as a wisdom teacher. In this composition, Ben Sira shows his awareness of the 5-line stanzas with which the author of Proverbs 8 developed his theme. Ben Sira's poem has 35 lines, exactly the number in Proverbs 8.
Well, that's nice.
Yep.
Isn't it? Yeah. So before we hop into chapter 24, some interpreters, for example, John Snaith, see chapter 24 as the conclusion to part 1 of the book, with verses 30 through 34 justifying Ben Sira's addition of the second part, chapters 25 through 43.
Yes.
Well, we'll talk more about that. Maybe there's some commentary in the Anchor Bible version.
Maybe.
On that.
Just let me know when it pops up, and I'll tell you if there's anything worthwhile in there.
Fantastic.
Chapter 24. Wisdom sings her own praises. Among her own people she proclaims her glory. In the assembly of the Most High she opens her mouth. In the presence of his host she declares her worth.
So, The introductory speech mentions wisdom's people and the assembly of hosts of the Most High. The natural way to understand these references places them in a heavenly context. They represent the angelic hosts attending God's court. Nevertheless, her people subsequently take on a special sense, the nation Israel, even if in these verses it connotes heavenly companions.
From the mouth of the Most High I came forth, and mist-like covered the earth. This is wisdom talking.
Yeah. So tell me when you get to the end of verse 7.
Okay. In the heights of heaven I dwelt, my throne on a pillar of cloud. The vault of heaven I compassed alone. Through the deep abyss I took my course. Over waves of the sea, over all the land, over every people and nation I held sway. Among them all I sought a resting place, in whose inheritance should I abide.
Yeah, so this may sound familiar because there is, plenty of references here hearkening back to the creation story. And also, if you remember Enoch, we were talking about wisdom trying to find a resting place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was that whole section on it.
Yeah, and there's this pillar of cloud.
Yep. So that wisdom issues from the divine mouth and settles like a mist on the entire earth accords with the claim that God spoke the world into existence and that the Spirit hovered over the chaotic mass from which order evolved. It's interesting that they use the word evolved there. So wisdom identifies herself as the pillar of cloud mentioned in Exodus 13:21 through 22. Of course, when they were trying to, find their way, there was that pillar. And the reference to plumbing the depths of Sheol amounts to an assertion of sovereignty over its citizens. And then in verse 7, it introduces the subject of the second stanza, which is a wisdom search for a resting place. And of course, referenced before, that we kind of had a different myth, I suppose, a different myth about the resting place of wisdom from Enoch.
Right.
Yeah, the author of First Enoch did not grant any people exclusive access to divine knowledge, but Ben Sira attributes true wisdom to the Jews.
Right, because they're taking the inheritance, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's abiding in their inheritance. Even though earlier on in verse 6, it says, over every people and nation I held sway. So if you want an apologetic for that, it might be that Enoch takes place way before there is a Jewish nation.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, it is supposed to.
Right. So that there's an apologetic, which I guess would only apply to some Ethiopians.
Yeah.
Anyway, then the fashioner of all gave me his command, and he who had made me chose the spot for my tent, saying, in Jacob make your dwelling, in Israel your inheritance. The fashioner of all. Is it the same in the Osterley translation?
Which verse is that?
That is verse 8.
Then the creator of all things gave me commandment.
I wonder if there's a note on this. Nope, there's no note on this. I wonder what the language is.
Mm-hmm.
Before the ages, from the first, he created me, and through the ages I shall not cease to be. In the holy tent I ministered before him, and then in Zion I took up my post. In the city he loves as he does me, he gave me rest. In Jerusalem is my domain. I have struck root among the glorious people. In the portion of the Lord is my inheritance. Like a cedar in Lebanon, I am raised aloft, like a cypress on Mount Hermon. Like a palm tree in En-gedi, I stand out. Like a rose garden in Jericho, like a fair olive tree in the foothills, like a plane tree, I am lofty beside the water, like cinnamon or fragrant cane or precious myrrh, I give forth perfume, like galbanum and onycha and mastic, like the odor of incense in the holy tent. So if you remember in the Torah, I believe it was in the Torah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was in the Torah. I don't know exactly where. They go into an anointing oil recipe, and they go into the things that they would burn while in religious ritual.
Yeah.
Right? One of those things would be flesh, right? Like they're burning animal sacrifice. And other things would be like incense and myrrh. So like they do mention myrrh earlier on, but also things that are not in the ingredients of that list, specifically when they're referencing the fragrance, right?
Yeah, so there is actually quite a lot here about the specific references to all these kinds of fragrant things, and also the trees earlier on.
Yeah.
So Ben Sira's choice of cassia and myrrh relates to their function. When mixed with cinnamon and fragrant cane in preparing an ointment essential for the ritual involving the sacred ark. Similarly, galbanum, an aromatic, though bitter gum, mastic, an aromatic resin, and onycha, an extraction from a marine mollusk, in combination with frankincense, produced incense for use in the liturgy, despite the frequent association of the terebinth, which is actually in the next verse, I think, verse 16. Yeah. Despite the frequent association of the terebinth with idolatrous cults and sacred prostitution, Ben Sira dares to incorporate the image of this splendid shade tree into his description of wisdom.
All right. I spread out my branches like a terebinth, my branches so bright and so graceful. I bud forth delights like the vine, my blossoms yield to fruits fair and rich. Verse 18 is set aside.
Yeah, because it says here that it doesn't actually say anything about it, but it does show that it is in brackets. So I'm guessing it's in one manuscript or something. Verse 18.
There's dispute between Greek and Latin manuscripts.
Gotcha. Okay. But yeah, we should definitely read it.
Yep. I am the mother of fair love, of reverence, of knowledge, and of holy hope. To all my children I give to be everlasting to those named by him. And that last bit that I just read is not in Latin.
Gotcha.
So now let's go back up the page to verse 19.
Yeah.
Come to me, you that yearn for me, and be filled with my fruits. You will remember me as sweeter than honey, better to have than the honeycomb.
Sweeter than honey?
Sweeter than honey. That's even better than what was promised to people in Israel. Milk and honey. Ooh. Yeah, sweeter than honey might be a little gross. That actually, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's some Islamic texts that use that phrase, sweeter than honey.
I mean, I'm sure, because, Islam arose from Christianity, just like Christianity arose from Judaism.
And Islam also. Wow. It's like a mixture of Talmudic Judaism and Christianity and like Zoroastrianism and a little bit of other desert dwelling stuff and some original stuff. I'll give them that there's some original stuff in there.
Also, when it comes to conversion, it's probably the easiest one, honestly, because it always made sense to me, because you can just believe it and you're a Muslim now. But in like other religions, you have to go through some ritual or something.
Yeah, you got to get a baptism, and like becoming a Jew is like a whole ordeal that
Yeah.
you have to go through.
So
but in Islam, you just say like,
I believe this is true.
yeah.
Yeah, it's that easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like that should just be that should just be how it is, though.
Yeah. Well, they also.
No wonder they got so many converts. It was pretty
It's
easy
easy.
to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Quran also says that there should be no compulsion in religion, right? But that's not how every Islamic nation has always acted.
Yeah.
Right? Anyways, come to me, you that yearn for me. Okay, read that part already. He who eats of me will hunger still. He who drinks of me will thirst for more. He who obeys me will not be put to shame. Those who work with me will never fail.
So there is some interesting commentary on this. So of course the concluding invitation develops the notion of viticulture and its fruit. Wisdom summons everyone to a feast, as in Proverbs. If you remember the nice feast, the alluring feast. She offers food and drink that makes one return for more, and she promises protection from shame and its cause, which, according to this, is missing the mark, apparently. Patrick Skehen thinks this conjectured use of the verb yahatu. Wow, this is horrible. Yetau, I guess, and hoteai in Proverbs 8:36 are the only instances in the Bible where hata has its original meaning of missing the mark. So that's the translation that they adopt.
Interesting. All right. All this is true of the book of the Most High's covenant, the law which Moses enjoined on us as a heritage for the community of Jacob. That's in a quote.
Yeah, so with verse 23, a new section begins momentarily in third-person narrative, descending into prose. Ben Sira makes an astonishing statement that divine wisdom here described is identical to Israel's prized possession, the Mosaic Law. In other words, access to wisdom comes through reflection on the divine commandments, no longer through studying nature and human experience as maintained in Proverbs, the book of Job, and Ecclesiastes. To convey the immensity of this coverage, Ben Sira evokes the ancient myth. Okay, we'll get into that. But he evokes an ancient myth of the four rivers. Mm-hmm. But you said that was a quote, because that was somebody speaking.
It's in a quote. All right. This stanza, in which Ben Sira is again the speaker, identifies wisdom with the law, Torah. Skehen remarks, verse 23a can only be described as a descent into prose. I know of no one who tries to make of it a full line. Verse 23a is, however, one of Ben Sira's most emphatic statements that wisdom is the Torah of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's in quotes to show that it's not poetry.
Yeah, it stands out, yeah.
It is brimful, like the Pishan. What's a Pishan?
Are you on...
I'm on the first... I'm on 25a.
25a, okay.
It is brimful like the Pishan with wisdom.
Oh, that's the river.
Oh, okay. I see. Like the Tigris at the time of the
Wait,
new crops.
did you have a verse 24?
Verse 24. Oh, it's at the bottom of the page. Do not grow weary of striving with the Lord's help, but cling to him that he may reinforce you. The Lord Almighty alone is God, and apart from him there is no Savior.
As we have heard so many times before.
Mm-hmm. I think probably it's that this is only in some manuscripts. I'm assuming.
That would be my best guess. Because, the textual history of Sirach is kind of seeming pretty shady, honestly.
Yeah, it's got
Lots of different reconstructions and yeah.
It's a shame. It runs over like the Euphrates with understanding, like the Jordan at harvest time. It floods like the Nile with knowledge, like the Gihon at vintage time. The first human never knew wisdom fully, nor will the last succeed in fathoming her.
Ooh, spooky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deeper than the sea are her thoughts, her counsels than the great abyss.
So lots of references there back to Adam and Eve.
Yeah, back to Adam and Eve.
Back to the creation
obviously,
story.
Tigris and Euphrates. You have your Mesopotamia reference. So,
to convey the immensity of this coverage that wisdom is the Torah. Ben Sira evokes the ancient myth of the 4 rivers flowing through the Garden of Eden. The Mosaic law is inexhaustible, like those rivers, ever spilling over their banks with beneficial gifts to those who depend on water for survival. The Pishon, the Tigris, the Euphrates, the Jordan, the Nile, and the Gihon comprise the major rivers with which the Israelites were acquainted in fact and in fiction. According to Genesis 2:10 through 14, 4 rivers, Pishon, Gihon, Tigris, and Euphrates, watered the whole land. To these, Ben Sira adds the Jordan and the Nile.
yeah, well, those were the 2 bodies of water that got separated by God, right? I mean, everybody talks about, well, no, that was the Red Sea, not the Nile. The Nile got turned red, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a miracle, right?
That would be considered a miracle, yes.
And obviously crossing the Jordan.
Unless we find like some other reason it turned red, but
right.
Because there's runoff and other theories have been proposed.
Yeah, but from the point of view of one who thinks that an almighty deity literally turned the water red.
Yes.
Which actually, yeah,
or turned it into blood specifically.
into blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it coagulated. It was super gross.
Yeah.
Oof.
That would be a miracle.
Yes.
And
Not a
crossing
good
the
miracle.
Jordan. People don't talk about crossing the Jordan nearly as much as they do crossing the Dead Sea. The Red
Or the
Sea.
Red Sea, yeah.
Well,
And
it
a
is
sea of
supposed to
reeds.
be-
Sea of Reeds.
Yeah.
It's categorically different than the Dead Sea. Yeah, but they don't talk about crossing the Jordan that much. I wonder why.
Well, it is less miraculous, and although it marks kind of like the end of the journey, right? But like the struggle to get there is honestly a much more interesting story.
But the river crossings serve as kind of bookends of their time in the desert. So I don't know. Let's keep going. Rivers.
Yeah.
Deeper than the sea are her thoughts, her counsels than the great abyss. So the wisdom which is equated to the Torah is deeper than anything that is comprehensible.
Yes. So
they said the last
Blavatsky.
person wouldn't get it either.
Not even the last human. Oof. Now I, like a rivulet from her stream, channeling the waters forth into a garden, said to myself, I will water my plants, my flower bed I will drench. And suddenly this rivulet of mine became a river, and this stream of mine a sea. Again will I send my teachings forth, shining like the dawn, to spread their brightness afar off. Again will I pour out instruction like prophecy, and bequeath it to generations yet to come. Wow, he's egotistical.
Is that it?
Unless it's broken up. No, yeah, that's...
Because I do have one more verse.
You have another verse.
Yeah. Because yours ended at verse 33, right?
33. Yeah, let's see. There's a textual note here. The Greek that follows this as verse 34 has its proper place as 33:18 in chapter 24.
Oh, okay.
Where it is not present in the Syriac, it is a harmonizing expansion by a copyist. CBQ 41.
Okay, so someone So someone who's copying it down took a different verse that they thought should end this chapter, and they put it there.
Yeah, there's a lot more on it, though.
Yeah.
Though it is plausible enough.
While you look through that, I'm just gonna read the verse.
Mhm.
Look ye and see that I have not labored for myself only, but for all those who diligently seek her.
All right.
The hard work of Ben Sirach.
I think that could fit in just about anywhere in the book. But
Anywhere that you're talking about wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see his argument here. Though it's plausible enough in this place to have won acceptance from modern scholars, e.g. Siegel, there is perhaps an additional reason at work, besides the harmonizing one, for the presence of this bicolon after 2433. Toward the end of Sirach, G2, Greek manuscript, repeats the last colon from the end of chapter 43, and to those who fear him he gives wisdom, at the end of chapter 50, and follows it with a doxology. This cannot be separated from the circumstances that chapters 44 through 50 were lacking completely in the basic African rendering of Sirach, and with chapter 51 as well, in two early forms of the Armenian, nor from the colophon for the end of the work quoted by Ziegler from the two Greek manuscripts, one Latin manuscript, and the Armenian, as appearing at the end of chapter 43. A similarly truncated edition of the book, passing over 25:1 through 33:18 altogether, could have achieved its object with some finesse by appending the bicolon 33:18 to the end of chapter 24. This would have had to occur before the transposition within the Greek tradition that affects chapters 30 through 36 in our extant codices. Collation of one such truncated copy against a text of the full book could then have brought the traveling bicolon into the Greek tradition of chapter 24, on which our codices depend. That makes sense.
That seems like a reasonable explanation, yeah.
Yeah.
But that is the end of the chapter.
That's the end of the chapter. Hey, if you're enjoying the stream so far, give us a like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, family, neighbors, countrymen.
Yeah, share it around. People are, still staying at home doing their things. It seems like a chill day for most people. So why not share it around? Why not get some people in here, get them talking about Ben Sirach, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how about we hop into chapter 25? How does that sound?
Well, Sirach's misogynist attitude comes into its own in this section. Bad wives and daughters occupy 27 verses compared with only 10 for good wives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're going to get into the spicy stuff again. Yeah. People seem to always like this stuff for whatever reason. I mean, I totally get it. Anyways, yes, how about we hop into chapter 25? In 3 things was I beautiful, and they are lovely. Was I beautiful? That's a really weird one. So the text of the Greek is corrupt, apparently. The Syriac reads, 3 things hath my soul desired.
With 3 things I am delighted. It says...
Yeah, because in 3 things was I beautiful.
Yes, he's dead now, and he's reflecting upon his life. No, I'm kidding. That's not what they meant, probably.
I mean, I get, reflecting upon your life in general, like I was good at these things, or I was, to be admired in these things.
He was beautiful in these 3 things, whatever the hell that means.
Yeah, but then it goes on to say, and they are lovely in the sight of the Lord and of men.
It says, Ziegler restores the corrupt Greek text for these 2 coda on the basis of the Syriac and following the analogy of similar numerical proverbs. It doesn't say that it's for verse 1. It says lab.
Okay.
And there's no lab footnote anywhere. So, thanks a lot.
Okay.
But
anyways, the concord of brethren and the friendship of neighbors, and a wife and a husband suited to each other. So those are good things. Good husband and wife, concord of brethren, and friendship of neighbors.
right.
So 3 types of men doth my soul hate, and I am greatly offended at their life. The poor man that is arrogant, and the rich man that is deceitful. Because, like, why do you need to lie if you're a rich guy? Yeah. And an old man that is an adulterer. If thy youth thou hast not gathered, if in thy youth thou hast not gathered, how wilt thou find in thine old age? Yeah, so if you're not if you're not down with this moral stuff early on, like,
then why would you be later?
Yeah.
Mm.
How beautiful to gray hairs is judgment, and for elders to know counsel. How beautiful is the wisdom of old men, and thought and counsel to those who are honored. The crown of the aged is their much experience, and their glorying is the fear of the Lord.
Tell me when you get to verse 7.
Okay. I am at verse 7 now, but I haven't started yet.
Well, let me tell you about this. The final stanza in this poem, verse 7 through 11, contains Ben Sira's 10 beatitudes. See also
Beatitudes.
Beatitudes, yes. See also Matthew 5, 3 through 11, Luke 6, 20 through 22.
Yeah, classic.
Yep. We're getting into numerical proverb territory here with like an X and X plus 1 kind of thing. So
we've seen it before.
We've seen it before. Look out for it.
9 conceptions I accounted blessed in my heart, and a 10th will I speak of with my tongue. A man that hath joy of his children, who liveth and seeth the fall of his enemies, of course. Blessed.
The wish to see one's enemy's downfall belong to the piety of biblical psalms. See Psalm 18, 38 through 43, 48 through 49.
Yeah, a whole lot of psalms just really wanted to see the destruction of their enemies.
Yeah, and laments generally. Although the attitude did not enjoy universal acceptance, the allusions to... Oh, well, you'll get to this. Tell me when you get to animals.
Okay. Blessed is the husband of an understanding wife, that doth not plow with ox and ass.
Yeah, so...
it gets even better. Blessed is he that hath not slipped with his tongue, and he that hath not served an inferior.
It says
sleep with animals.
The allusion to plowing with incompatible animals, see Deuteronomy 22:10, assumes a polygamous environment, the husband having sexual relations with 2 wives who cannot get along with each other. Ben Sira's elevation of piety over knowledge goes beyond traditional views, in which fear of the Lord was both the originating force and the essence of wisdom.
Blessed is the man that hath found prudence and discourseth unto ears that listen. How great is he that findeth wisdom, but he is not above him that feareth the Lord.
Right. This is to point out that worship is more important than wisdom, even though wisdom is super great, and it's something that continues actually into the next 2 verses a little bit.
Okay.
Where he exhorts fear of the Lord.
In fact, there's going to be a point in this where he effectively complains that because Jews are so busy doing like other things, like, working and stuff, they don't have enough time to worship and study the Torah, which is the only thing you need. So, the fear of the Lord surpasseth everything. He that holdeth it, to whom shall he be likened? It's like, can't really compare it to anybody.
Yeah.
Because you have the fear of the Lord. The beginning of the fear of the Lord is to love him, and the beginning of faith is to cleave unto him. And that's the thing we read before. I think that's one of the things we read before, right? verse 12 here. It's also in brackets.
Yeah.
I think we definitely read the cleaving part before.
Yeah, let me see. Verse 12. It is set aside. Note here a recurrent theme of this Greek manuscript.
Yes.
Last seen in 19:18 through 19 and 24:18 and 24.
Okay, gotcha. And this next section is titled An Evil Wife. So now we're going to learn about what an evil wife is like.
Yeah, here it's...
Are you ready to learn about what an evil wife is like? Make sure that everything you look for in a woman is not the things this evil wife does.
Okay.
Okay? Just keep that in mind. Otherwise, Ben Sira will be very mad with you.
Okay, so having momentarily introduced the topic of a good wife in 25:1, Ben Sira now turns to a discussion of virtuous and wicked wives, beginning with the latter and interrupting this strong censure with a brief section on a good wife, only to return...
Brief, very brief.
Yeah. Only to return to the less complimentary assessment of wives before concluding on a positive note.
How nice. It won't be nice.
Poetry, folks.
Any wound, only not a heart wound. Any wickedness, only not the wickedness of a woman.
So
What?
It means worst of all wounds is that of the heart, worst of all evils is that of a woman. That's how they translate in the Anchor Bible.
Okay, that makes way more sense. Let's be honest here. Any calamity, only not the calamity of haters. He's got haters.
Haters gonna hate.
Any vengeance, only not the vengeance of enemies.
So the reference to vengeance of enemies in verse 14 may actually reflect a polygamous setting in which wives jockey for position and harbor grudges that lead to aggressive acts of vengeance in the same way as Jacob's wives, Leah and Rachel, expressed rivalry.
Mm-hmm. There is no poison above the poison of a serpent, and there is no wrath above the wrath of a woman.
So this poison, the heavy bias continues through this chapter.
Hell hath no fury like a woman's scorn.
It may be snake venom, the poison.
Yeah. I'm guessing poison of a serpent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be snake venom. It could also be, Hebrew here will have ros and hema. Greek apparently misunderstands it.
Oh, yeah, because apparently they do use the Greek. Australia uses the Greek.
Mm-hmm. No poison worse than that of a serpent, no venom greater than that of a woman.
Okay, fantastic. I would rather dwell with a lion and a dragon than keep house with a wicked woman.
Yeah.
Strong words. A lion and a dragon.
Yeah, the heavy bias continues into the rest of the chapter. Even lions and dragons are preferable to an evil woman who sometimes resembles a bear, known for its ferocity, as in 47:3.
Yeah, and then it goes on to say, the wickedness of a woman maketh black her look and darkeneth her countenance like a bear's.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Ben Sira, whatever you say, dude.
It says changes a woman's looks and makes her sullen as a female bear.
Gotcha.
The Anchor Bible.
Okay.
Which is a little less edgy.
Racist. Yeah, a little less edgy, yeah. In the midst of his friends, her husband sitteth, and involuntarily he sigheth bitterly. He's just glad to sit down.
He just sits down, he sighs, like, this shit again. Really? Oh, yeah, there was a bit in here. The comparison... absurd in the extreme, for no one could live with a lion or a dragon, calls to mind the unbearable situation of dwelling in the same house with an incorrigible woman.
Although people have lived with lions.
Yeah, Mike Tyson had a tiger.
That sounds like a very Mike Tyson thing to do.
We're making a different sitcom now. It's going to be about a guy who runs away from his evil wife and tries to live in a cave with a bear and a lion, or a bear and a dragon instead. Sorry,
and a lion
and a dragon.
Why not a bear? A bear is there too.
Yeah, sure.
Oh my.
Yep, that's a great sitcom. Somebody go copy that. Thanks.
Okay. Anyways, more stuff about women. There is little malice like the malice of a woman. May the lot of the wicked fall upon her. Damn.
Oh, this is turned around in here. May she fall to the lot of the sinner.
Okay.
But I guess it might be, I mean, it's the same point.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. As a sandy ascent to the feet of the aged, so is a woman of tongue to a quiet man. So the sandy ascent, it's very unstable, right? If you're walking on like a sandy hill.
Yeah.
Especially if you're old. It's
the point of verse 20 is that climbing a mound of sand is difficult for the aged because the footing is insecure. So a quiet man is always slipping about with a garrulous wife, never knowing where he is.
Okay, just completely lost. Fall not through the beauty of a woman, and be not ensnared by what she possesseth. For hard slavery and a disgrace it is if a wife support her husband. Whoa. Fucking classic.
Whoa.
What?
It's a disgrace if your wife supports you.
There has to be something. Okay, so this is verse 22, and
yes, verse 22.
Okay.
What's the translation in there?
The translation: harsh is the slavery, great the shame when a wife supports her husband.
Gotcha.
19 through 22.
Yeah, so he's basically calling any dude who is supported by his wife a bitch.
Oh, I see. In comparing the wife who supports her husband because he married her for the money she brings in to harsh slavery, Ben Sirach alludes to the oppressive service the wealthy Egyptians imposed on the Israelites.
Okay. That does make sense.
But it's
not
a good parallel.
No. Doesn't, and it also doesn't make it clear that that's a parallel.
No, not at all.
Like all these other things aren't parallels. Why would this be a parallel?
Mm-hmm.
A humbled heart and a sad countenance and a heart wound is an evil wife. Hands that hang down and what the fuck is this? Palsied?
Quaking knees.
For a wife that maketh not her husband happy. Yeah, fuck that bitch. She sucks.
She doesn't provide you with complete happiness at all times.
So you gotta make sure she can't walk.
I guess.
Wow.
From one way or another.
Oh, then here we get back to Genesis. From a woman did sin originate, and because of her we all must die.
Fucking. Yeah, that is that's
how it's written.
That's what Yahweh says.
Yeah.
Or I guess Elohim says. The bold claim in verse 24 that sin originated with woman, presumably an allusion to Eve's disobedience of the divine decree.
I'm sure it is.
And all that subsequent people die because of Eve's sin represents but one of three different viewpoints in ancient Israel regarding sin and death. The usual explanation for death in Judaism focused on Adam's unrepentant attitude rather than Eve's original disobedience, when it did not assume that human beings were by nature mortal. In the ancient story of the fall, Eve's disobedience preceded Adam's chronologically. but Adam's presence and complicity implicate him equally. John Levi's son, one of the two,
I'm sure it's Levi's son.
Okay. Has endeavored to exonerate Eve in Ben Sirach's eyes. Levi's son thinks verse 24 refers to an evil wife and to husbands who die because of such terrible spouses.
I think this is a direct reference to Genesis.
Yeah, but the contextual evidence and the fragments from Qumran do not make a strong case for the argument. Yeah. The third source of evil, along with Eve and Adam, was Satan, at least in popular thought. Because, of course,
classic, yeah.
You know, the Hebrew Bible doesn't really say shit about Satan.
It doesn't, but that was a much later interpretation.
Yeah.
Satan also, also Lilith was an interpretation. There's a lot of medieval artwork that portrays Lilith in the garden. You know, pretty much just being the snake. Anyways, give not water an outlet, nor power to a wicked woman. Wow. Okay. If she go not as thou would have her, cut her off from thy flesh. Of course, that's a reference to, man and woman being of one flesh.
Yeah, I cut her away from your flesh with a bill of divorce.
Apparently, the section, those last two verses, 25 and 26, are not extant in the Hebrew.
Ooh. About this section, these last two verses, Ben Sirach advises husbands to suppress evil wives' freedom and express themselves just as one builds a dam to prevent the free flow of water. Failing in that endeavor, husbands can then resort to the ultimate contingency, divorce. The language implies, also it's in Deuteronomy 24:1. The language implies severing her from her husband's flesh, which recalls the statement in Genesis 2:24 that husband and wife become one flesh. Within Judaism, two opposing attitudes to divorce vied for acceptance. The one lenient for something as trivial as burnt bread, and the other quite restrictive, allowing divorce only for instances of adultery or other sexual offense. The lenient view merely acknowledges a fact. If one is prepared to divorce a wife over burnt bread, then the marriage is already dead. Ben Sirach's view falls into the former camp. A husband can divorce his wife who refuses to bow down before his wishes.
That's classic Ben Sirach.
Classic. But that is, if I'm not incorrect, the end of chapter 25.
Yeah, it is. It is, in fact, the end of chapter 25.
Wonderful. Well, if you're enjoying the stream so far, like, subscribe, etc., etc. I'll hop us into chapter 26.
Oh, what a good time we will have.
Having a good time.
So this starts out with, good wife stuff, but then it hops right back to bad wife stuff.
And chapter 27 after this is not too long either. It's like 30-some verses. These are all roughly the same length, actually.
Yeah, and we're not even doing chapter 27 today.
No, we're not. But we are doing chapter 26.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you are doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm about to.
You guys need
fantastic
confirmation that you're still doing the thing. You're doing the thing.
I'm still doing the thing. Happy the husband of a good wife. Now we're talking about good wives.
Mm-hmm.
Twice lengthened are his days. A worthy wife brings joy to her husband. Peaceful and full is his life. A good wife is a generous gift bestowed upon him who fears the Lord. Be he rich or poor, his heart is content, and a smile is ever on his face. Gotta have a really good wife.
Yeah.
I guess.
Like, it's very hard to find a person who always puts a smile on your face.
Yeah. There are three things at which my heart quakes. A fourth before which I quail. Though false charges in public trial before all the people and lying testimony are each harder to bear than death. A wife jealous of another wife is heartache and mourning and a scourging tongue like the other three. So it's just as bad as false charges and lying testimony.
So on the...
And public trial.
It looks like we're getting back to the whole feuding wives thing, which came up before. So apparently that's the worst woe, is a wife's jealousy of a rival. We note that this climactic element also lies in the public view because tongue lashing makes it widely known in the community, gossiping. Did you get to verse 7 yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I'm about to.
Right. Actually, tell me when you get through verse 12.
In modern times, in these kinds of contexts, tongue lashing has a completely different meaning.
Yeah, it does.
Yep. This is verse 7. A bad wife is a chafing yoke. Whoever marries her has a scorpion in his grasp.
Yeah, so a chafing yoke is a constant irritation, but taking hold of a bad wife resembles grasping a scorpion. And then it goes on with these kinds of with these analogies.
A drunken wife arouses great anger, for she does not hide her shame. By her eyelids and her haughty stare, an unchaste wife can be recognized. Keep strict. Watch over an unruly wife, lest finding an opportunity she make use of it.
Was that verse 10?
Yeah.
So, although the Greek of verse 10 refers to a daughter, the Syriac reading wife probably retains the Hebrew original. It looks like the Greek has daughter there, or you could have a headstrong daughter as a translation. But apparently that's also a problem because they can grab all the liberty they can. How horrible of them to grab themselves some liberty.
Yeah. Follow close if her eyes are bold, and be not surprised if she betrays you. As a thirsty traveler with eager mouth drinks from any water that he finds, so she sits down before every tent peg and opens her quiver for every arrow.
So obviously there's a lot of euphemisms there.
That's not subtle.
Yeah, every
not even slightly subtle.
Every tent peg, opening up your quiver for every arrow. Yeah.
I gotta say though, maybe he's right. That does sound like a bad wife.
Well, unless you have some agreement.
And even if you have an agreement, everyone. That's a little like the disease chance alone is too much. Anyways, a gracious wife delights her husband. Her thoughtfulness puts flesh on his bones. A gift from the Lord is her governed speech, and her disciplined virtue is of surpassing worth. Choicest of blessings is a modest wife, priceless her chaste person. Like the sun rising in the Lord's heavens, the beauty of a virtuous wife is the radiance of her home. Like the light which shines above the holy lampstand are her beauty of face and graceful figure. Golden columns on silver bases are her shapely limbs and steady feet. Ooh, that's golden columns on silver bases. What is that? Is that a reference to the temple?
That's definitely what it sounds like because you had also the lampstand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it does look like it's temple imagery.
Oh man. You know how like nuns say they're married to Jesus?
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this some shit like that? Where like, he goes on and on and on about how great the good wife is. And then he uses temple imagery in these two verses, 17 and 18.
Oh, okay. So I guess it's close to that, but he's probably talking about an actual wife.
Right, but you would think that it's like sacrilegious in a certain sense to like compare a mere mortal woman to the house of the Lord.
Sure.
Especially if you're like a really pious person.
It's apocryphal.
Well, it's not if you're Catholic.
That's why, but
if you're Catholic, it's canon. Okay. This section, everything after this is in a different section. It has a line.
Yeah.
So I assume this is like only in Greek because it has Greek.
So since you just finished a section, I do have a textual note on it. Apparently, some people do think that this was a later addition, but nothing in the final section demands an understanding of it as secondary, despite its absence in the shorter Greek translation. And Hebrew, it is preserved in the expanded Greek version and in Syriac.
Mm-hmm.
So, nevertheless, much of the material either repeats what Ben Sira has already said or echoes similar parts, or similar remarks in the book of Proverbs, which happens a lot, honestly.
Yeah. This section, 19 through 27, may have been copied from Hebrew at some point, but we don't have any extant copies of it in Hebrew.
Mm.
My son, keep intact the prime of your life by not surrendering your strength to strangers. Single out from all the land a goodly field, and there will with confidence sow the seed of your increase. So shall you have your offspring around you, growing up confident in their breeding. Though a woman for hire be thought of as a trifle, a married woman is a deadly snare for those who embrace her. An impious woman will be given as spouse to the lawless man, but a devout wife is given to whoever fears the Lord. Because, they're property that are given from a father to a suitor in exchange for a dowry.
As is tradition.
Mm-hmm. The shameless hussy wears out reproach, but an exemplary daughter will be modest even before her husband. The unruly wife will be thought of as a bitch.
Whoa. Calling it out.
What verse is this?
That's verse 25. What does it say in Osterly?
I'm going to check Australia's. Hold on. Actually, there's a whole section here missing on what verses are being covered, so that's interesting. Verse 25. Let me flip to that real quick here in my handy dandy Ben Sira translation.
Okay.
A headstrong woman is regarded as a dog.
Okay, so he means literal a female dog.
Yeah.
Obviously, in Middle Eastern cultures, as we know, dogs are thought of as like gross, evil animals.
What do they think about cats?
I love cats.
When I was in Israel, cats roamed the streets like rats. They were a public nuisance.
Oh, geez. Yeah,
That's
I guess
sad.
they just didn't like pets.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought of as a bitch, but the one with a sense of shame fears the Lord. The woman who respects her husband will be seen by everyone as wise, but the one who proudly scorns her spouse, all will know to be impious. Happy the husbands of a good wife. Each year of his life counts for 2. I think that's in pretty strong contrast to like the sitcom culture that we have now, where like a woman who respects her husband is always seen as wise, and the one who scorns her husband is seen as bad.
Yeah, that does happen a lot.
Like our television shows, usually like they're present like King of Queens or something. The husband is an idiot, and the wife has to fix all of their problems.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Ben Sira. Culture has changed. That's not how the world is anymore. But a loud-mouthed, scolding wife can be recognized as a battle trumpet signaling attack. Any human being who matches that challenge will spend his life amid the turbulence of war.
Wow. Arguing with your wife is like being right there in no man's land.
Yeah. They're like, oh, man, the PTSD.
Yeah.
They've got a VA.
Oh.
The V does not stand for veterans.
Oh my God.
A couple more verses here, but
Great.
we're in another section on hazards to integrity and to friendship. These two things bring grief to my heart, and the third rouses my anger. A wealthy person reduced to want, the intelligent held in contempt, and the person who passes from righteousness to sin, him the Lord makes ready for the sword.
So you just finished verse 28, right?
Yeah, there's only one more. It's a merchant can hardly remain without fault, or a shopkeeper free from sin.
Okay, so there is a good bit of textual commentary. The Greek text has warrior for the first of these, probably through a misunderstanding of an original Ishail or Gibor Hail, a wealthy man or person of substance. In the Hebrew Bible, Gibor means a mighty person, a warrior.
Well, you can get their point, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to be living in a house with someone who's just going to like annoy you all day with senseless arguments.
Well, this is a different section here.
Well,
Dun, dun,
now
dun.
we're in a different section.
Now wait, hold on. You just finished verse 28, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I just finished verse 29. We're done with the chapter.
Oh, okay.
These two verses at the end here are in this different section.
Yeah.
28 and 29.
Yeah.
But everything before then, like, yeah, it's misogynistic, but
I mean, I get not wanting to argue.
you don't want to argue all day, every day.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine your mom?
I don't want
Your
to
mom.
imagine my mom.
A
Your
woman
mom.
like your mom.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah.
I like that copy because and her name is your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Every time that you see her posting that, you got to be thinking about your mom.
I don't actually.
Now you are.
No, he's just thinking about
That's
your mom
'cause you did it.
jokes.
You did that,
You did that.
asshole.
Anyways, why don't you go on with the commentary?
You
man?
know, honestly, there's really not too much commentary until the next chapter. Although this, chapter 27, when we do get to it, it's honestly a lot of stuff about money, and it seems like a scathing review of capitalism in a way.
Yep.
This next section that we're going to be covering.
Yeah. But we're not covering it this time.
No, we are not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like we should, but I guess not.
No, it's long enough.
Yeah, long enough.
Well,
Well, I hope everyone enjoyed their show today. Our show. The show that you have been witness to.
yeah, been witness to. That's a very good way of putting it, honestly,
Yep.
especially on a show like this.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
So we're glad you saw it.
now next week we're going to be talking
We're
about
always glad you came.
and we know your names.
We do.
But next week we're going to be covering some finance stuff. And speaking of finances, we have a donation drive going on.
We do, yes. Once we hit $666, we will be doing the whole e-meter Thetan reading thing that Scientologists like to do.
Yep, we'll
gonna
be
be seeing
taking it
who's clear.
apart. We're see who's clear. We're gonna tell you how it works. We're gonna tell you a little bit about L. Ron Hubbard and
Yeah,
Scientology.
I think that'd be a fun thing to learn about, right? I like learning about L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you learn all the crazy nonsense, like how he had a navy,
Yeah.
where he promised people superpowers if they joined. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
So once we hit $666, we're going to get that in order. Our previous goal of doing alchemy, we're waiting. Still waiting.
You know, the ongoing global bastard.
Someday.
Yeah, someday. That's good.
Yep. And beyond that, we have a Patreon.
We do have a Patreon, and you know what? For $1 a month, that's it. $1 a month, you could get all of our video scripts. That's tomes of information for $1 a month, and it's $12 a year. That is less than a
It's less than 2 hot dogs at a stadium. Think about it. You can't go to the stadium. What are you going to do? You're going to give us that hot dog money.
Chris loves his hot dog money.
He does love hot dog money.
I was just making a reference to something I know nothing about.
Okay.
Let's see what else we got going on. We have a Teespring. Also, and if you are a $10 patron or more, you get entered into the T-shirt giveaway. We just had it last week. We gave away a free T-shirt, so you could do a lot of cool stuff on the Patreon.
Yeah, we got wacky and fun T-shirts on that Teespring.
Also, yes.
And, there's a whole bunch of them. That you can get a Behold T-shirt. You can get a 2 Kings, 1 King T-shirt.
You can get
Breaking Bad.
Laurentium, Rubinium,
Yeah. You can get, there's just
a whole bunch,
of them.
And we have to keep making new ones every time Landon wins a shirt.
Yeah, so
So we got a lot of shirts.
we need you to sign up as high-level patrons so that Landon doesn't keep winning all of our shirts, so that we don't have to keep making new shirts all the time.
Sorry, Landon.
Sorry.
Anyways, what else we got going on? I know we have other stuff. We got
School.
We got a wish list.
Oh, we got a wish list.
Yeah.
Check out our wish list. Books like these.
These glorious books.
And it's always free to use Twitter or Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Free to follow us on Twitter and Facebook.
Yep.
And I think that's all the shilling we have to do. All links are in the description.
We can do more shilling.
We could, but I don't think it would be useful.
Do you have a PayPal?
I do, but I'm not gonna have people send money to it just like that. Just get something off the fucking wish list.
Do you have a Bitcoin wallet?
No.
We could get a Bitcoin wallet, and instead of doing it in the description, we could read off all right, lowercase f572, so on. Take 5 minutes to read off the thing.
Let's not do that.
Maybe not. If we need more padding, though.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
For the algorithm.
Stop
Of
padding.
course, the good old algorithm. Thank you, algorithm, for letting us go this long. And we will see you on Sunday.